Hello, everybody, and welcome to the top of the hour. It's exactly 6 o'clock. And if you're here, you're on time. Welcome to Moohead Radio. I'm your host, the Big and Furry Bovine. It's just me today. And, this is the dog days of summer. And it's not like we're going to go on and pontificate about the Guardians or any of that stuff. Now, Hector. Barber. Who is Barber? I'm sorry. If I missed this story, I missed it. If anybody wants to clarify, please feel free. But this is the kind of thing that can happen, obviously. Marion Barber. Oh, okay. Going back to that story. Gotcha. Yeah. When you're working out in hot weather, that sort of thing, that can kill you. And, I don't think whenever we see a player of lesser age dying, I find myself always trying to figure out what happened. And if that is the case, it's a shame that anybody passes away. But I don't know, whatever caused what he was doing at the time of the heat stroke, that might be interesting to find out. I didn't go into much depth with the story only because we didn't have an official autopsy. So after the program, I'm sure that I will be looking that up. Thank you, Hector, for bringing that to my attention, and Ron also. I appreciate it. On today's program, I want to start out with things just aren't the way they used to be. All right, and I'm not pining for days gone by, because I'm smart enough to know that clocks don't go backwards; they go frontwards. But we're looking at a situation where the Browns in their first week of the season are playing at the Panthers, and we know that most likely Baker Mayfield will be the starting quarterback for the Panthers. And that Jacoby Brissett will be the starting quarterback for the Browns, that McCaffrey will be healthy, and that both teams will be at full strength, except the fact that the Browns don't have a quarterback. And this is a great opportunity for Baker Mayfield to do what he so enjoys to do, and that is to get even with people. But I want to point this out going in. If on your home field you don't beat Jacoby Brissett, it may not speak too well of Baker Mayfield's leadership qualities or the amount of time that he will have had to prepare in a new offense. And again, I don't expect anything from the Browns in week one. History is on my side. We don't do well in season openers. And, what happens. But people are making a big deal out of this. And honestly, I think the home team is the favorite going into almost every week one game. And especially if one of the teams is playing a second string quarterback who has a history of losing in the NFL and has a career losing record. So be that as it may, Baker's 28-26 record or whatever it is, it's going to come down to who plays the best football. And I don't look at this as Baker against the Browns, because only a very small-minded, shriveled brain, atrophied person would look at it that way. The Browns have a good roster. I don't think it's a great roster. I think we're short on wide receivers. And I'm going to keep saying that until either A, they do something about it and get somebody else on the roster, or B, that they don't, and I'll be screaming about it every year saying, why? When you have an obvious hole, don't you plug the hole? Be that as it may. McCaffrey's a fine running back. We know that Chubb is a fine running back. We know that Kareem Hunt is a fine running back. We know that the Panthers have done some things to improve their offensive line that they're going to need to do. And the disadvantage that the Panthers have is that they have a new system that's going in, and this will be Baker's 18th in 18 years. I mean, basically, for the time he played Pee Wee football, I'd imagine, with the exception of maybe playing for Lincoln Riley, if you want to call that a system, I call it recruiting and playing weaker teams. But be that as it may. A lot of quarterbacks look good at Oklahoma, but didn't necessarily look great in the NFL. It's going to be hard to get up to speed with the amount of time that players have. And let's be honest, Baker's going to have to play in all of the preseason games, what few there are, to try to get himself up to game speed and try to get acclimated to who he's throwing to. Jacoby Brissett will just be Jacoby Brissett. I don't expect to see anything different that we haven't seen from him in his other stops in the NFL. So, again, I don't consider week one to be anything more than an annoyance for Browns fans, just simply because we don't win the season openers. And I guess what I look at with Baker Mayfield is it's like he's back at the bottom of the hill, pushing the rock up the hill. The Browns got good, and he's back playing for a team that is trying to build something better. And he's no longer part of a team that has a stronger roster based on the caliber of college athletes they've gotten in the draft. How it plays out on the field, your guess is as good as mine. Getting off that tact, the thing that's just, what am I going to say? I wanted to call it Three Rivers Stadium, and then it was Heinz Field, and that's, I could only imagine because they were so bad in recent years that they had to catch up. I'm sorry. I have to do this every now and then. But now Pittsburgh Steelers' home venue is to become Acrisure Stadium. Now, who is going to remember this? Acrisure. It almost sounds like a fucking deodorant. Well, if it's in Pittsburgh, maybe that would be a good idea. 2 decades as Heinz Field is over. The ketchup company basically said, no more. Big Ben is gone, and we're not going to put our, let's put it this way, anticipation. The slow ketchup is now the slow team. And Heinz doesn't want to have much to do with it. They did say something in a tweet. They're going to have something to do with it. I think they're trying to finagle their bottles to remain up on the scoreboard. But to be honest, I don't think Steelers fans are going to be looking at the scoreboard very much this year, unless they're looking to see how many points have been scored against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm just getting into early form here. Acrisure Stadium. I mean, can you see the announcers back in the day? This is Merlin Olsen. Welcome to Agriculture Stadium in Pittsburgh. And I don't know why they call it agriculture, but at any rate, we're here for a football game this week. Or Don Crickey. And we're back in Acrimony Stadium. I mean, I really, honest to God, if anything reeks of corporatism more than this, the fucking stadiums. I remember, when Jacobs Field got named after the one guy who actually spent money and tried to win in Cleveland in baseball, that stadium was so cool. And it was the Jake, it was really cool. And then, all of this naming right stuff. And I just can't get, Corporate Energy Stadium or whatever the fuck it is in Cleveland. I mean, I don't relate to these names. And the thing is, who in the fuck is Acrisure? Well, what I can tell you is they're a bunch of fucking cocksucking pigs, so they're perfect for Pittsburgh. They're a top 10 global insurance broker. They're not an insurance company. They're an insurance broker. They're not doing anything for people. They're investment people. They've grown their revenue more than $3.8 billion in just over 8 years because they're doing inside trading. By the way, Acrisure also has the naming rights to an indoor arena being constructed near Palm Springs, California, probably not too far away from a state penitentiary. Here's what Art Rooney II said. Let's have a show. I'm sorry, that was Mickey Rooney the first. Art Rooney II. We are excited to partner with Acrisure for the naming rights to our stadium. Acrisure provided us with an opportunity to ensure our stadium continues to be a valuable asset for our fans, as well as keeping up with the market value of NFL stadiums. All right, let me digest this for a minute. We're prostitutes and we did it for money. There's 32 of us who own these teams, and we all just whore ourselves. We spread our ass cheeks wide and let them pump right in. Acrisure. I mean, at least Heinz Stadium, the hot dog you're eating, there's a tie-in. What kind of a tie-in is there? Even an energy company that is in legal trouble, you can say, well, the lights are on at the stadium, But what in the fuck? A global insurance broker? Here's the insurance you should buy, and here's who you shouldn't buy. We get paid by this guy, by this guy, by this company, and this company, and this company, and we lead you into which insurance you're supposed to buy. We're an insurance broker. Like a pawn broker. Can you imagine? Brokers thought they had good names, Then pawnbrokers came along, and pawnbrokers were like, well, we're charging 48% as far as our vigorous. And if you're going to go for that, we'll take whatever the fuck you have, your house, anything, your children, whatever. And now we're right back to that again. Brokers. It's been Heinz Field for 20 years, and it never stopped being Three Rivers Stadium to me because we lost so many fucking games there. Privately, Rooney had been optimistic that the stadium would keep its name earlier this year, but eventually Kraft, the parent company, not the guy who gets hand jobs, Kraft Heinz Company didn't extend its naming rights again. Who wants to be affiliated with a bow wow like that? The glory years are over, Pittsburgh. You don't have a thumb anymore. You've lost a bunch of fingers on your hand, and I would urge all Pittsburgh fans in the quiet solitude of their homes to go fuck themselves. But it's not going to be the same. We kicked their ass at Acrisure Stadium. It's just not, I'm not going to remember that. You're not going to remember that. You're not going to know that name. My God. And then there's the problem with the NFL. And I'm glad that Mussolini was here in the chat room. How you doing? You know, the NFL has a bigger problem than Deshaun Watson does because Deshaun Watson isn't going to jail. And I'm not suggesting that the NFL is going to go to jail either. However, boy, what an incredible situation when they cornered Condoleezza Rice and asked her about the Deshaun Watson situation. And she sat there and basically kind of like, oh, Topaz, my dog, trying to figure out an algebra equation. Well, we have to give this time. We have to give this time. It's like, Condoleezza, don't you have an opinion? You are an African American female. This story definitely, you should have some reaction to this, one way or the other. As an African American, as a woman, as a human being, as a named person who was high up, Secretary of State, you have to have some feelings, just going to give it time. And then what do you find out? Bingo, bango. Condoleezza Rice joins the Denver Broncos' new ownership group. You don't think she got a bunch of phone calls? Hush, hush, sweet Charlotte. They're going to come at you and they're going to ask you about this. Don't give in. Don't say anything. Dummy up. You're part of the NFL, which for African Americans means not for long. It was just so funny. I was watching the interview the other day before they had released the information that she joined the Broncos' new ownership group. And what a group it is. Led by Walmart heir Rob Walton. By the way, that means that Rob Walton doesn't fucking do anything for a living. He's an heir. He's a trust fund child. He carries this low price name. Always. The lowest price, always. The name that pledged to do nothing but sell American products that now is filled with Chinese products. What a group. And I wonder what political persuasion Rob Walton is. Trust fund child. I don't think we have to answer that question. Here's the rest of the people in that group that bought out the Denver Broncos. Walton's daughter, Carrie Walton Penner, her husband, Greg Penner, and Melody Hobson, co-CEO of Ariel Investments and chair of the board for Starbucks, agreed to purchase the Broncos for $4.65 billion. And, the thing that's amazing about the idiots who keep posting on social media about a $230 million guaranteed contract. Does anybody in the room think that the Denver Broncos are worth $4.65 billion? That's remarkable. I have to do this, folks, because I don't like to encourage him, but every so often he says something clever. So don't get the wrong idea, Amsterdam. This is not that I'm giving you mass exposure on a program that doesn't have any. But good one. You keep hanging in there. And I'm sure I'll put something up within the next 12 months of yours again. Amazing, ain't it? That's how it works. You say something clever, you get put up here, or something meaningful. $4.65 billion. In a statement Monday, here's what Walton had to say. We're pleased to welcome former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice to our ownership group. Highly respected public servant. I don't like that. Highly respected public servant. I don't know. Sounds like Benson. No. And I don't mean the former owner of the New Orleans Saints. If you're not familiar with television, my generation, don't look it up. You'll only be offended. Accomplished academic and corporate leader, Secretary Rice is well known as a passionate and knowledgeable football fan. She's a Browns fan. That's why they asked her the question about Deshaun Watson in the first place. Condoleezza Rice is a Browns fan. Not anymore. She's a Broncos fan now. She's the daughter of a football coach and served on the inaugural college football playoff committee. Her unique experience and extraordinary judgment will be a great benefit to our group, the Broncos organization, and will look really good on a letterhead. Which, by the way, we are really into upwardly mobile females here in Denver. There is no Mile High Club in our aircraft. Just letting you know. That's a record price for a North American sports franchise. You know, it's like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. This is what the other owners in the NFL say. I can't believe it. $230 million for Deshaun Watson. I can't believe that somebody who's bastardly Browns, man, would pay that kind of money. Look what they've done. They've opened Pandora's box. Isn't that horrible? Now we're going to have to pay somebody more. What? Said the Broncos just sold for $4.65 billion? Hallelujah, Lord Jesus. There's hope for us all. Billions and billions of dollars, and the stories don't get talked about at all. One guy gets $230 million, and he happens to be black. God help us in the world of the NFL. This is awaiting approval for 24 yes votes. 60 to 90 days for the sale to be approved, and you've got yourself new ownership. Congratulations. Now, the question is, what are they going to call the stadium? If you have any suggestions on what Denver Stadium should be named and a company that can get the naming rights, feel free to post it. I'd be more than happy to read those. I don't have time to think of anything right now. I'm just checking back in the chat room here. I'm looking to see if there's anybody. I'm an angry cow. I'm not an angry cow. I like things the way they used to be. I don't like this new world. It's not so brave. I don't like it. Damn. They're not big enough. And it's too timely. They can actually serve a product at the stadium. It's got to be somebody who is like some massive worldwide accounting firm. You know, something that's just like, who's that? And there's a bunch of them that we don't know. Acrisure. Make it stop. Here's the question that people in Cleveland are asking. Can Donovan Peoples-Jones be the number 2 wide receiver that the Browns need? Now, if I were a guy who was going into his 3rd season like Donovan Peoples-Jones, and the fact that up to this point, what the best thing they can say about him is that he fights for balls from a vertical perspective, goes up after the ball, and unlike Rashard Higgins and OBJ and all those other silly people, was not a high maintenance player. But they asked him at OTAs, Do you feel like you're ready to be the number 2 receiver? The quiet Michigan product gave an answer that any coach would love. That's not for me to decide, he said. I just come in every day and work. That's not what I want to hear. You know, I own fucking businesses. I don't want that. No. My employees, if they just came in and said, I say, ready for a raring day to the sales force, and they go, yeah, we're here like we're here every year. You know, I can't guarantee I'm going to sell anything, but I'm here to work. What? Let's whip up a frenzy. This is excitement, folks. I don't know if I can do the job or if I can't do the job. And obviously couldn't be a number 1. And it's a number 3. I have to get the ball thrown to me. And you best ask Kevin about that, because it's not for me to decide. It's like the Johnny Mathis answer. Wait, here we go. It's not for me to say. And he's still alive, and that's what he sounds like. Oh, my God. Now, come up with ideas. I want to see ideas about naming that Denver stadium. Yeah. Donovan Peoples-Jones, you know, sometimes you got to reach out and grab something. And I don't mind quiet guys. Nick Chubb's a quiet guy, but he performs. I've yet to see that consistently from Donovan Peoples-Jones. So I don't want to hear him going into year 3 saying, well, that's kind of up to that guy over there. And all I can do is what I can do. Oh, to do da day. I want to hear that shit. That makes me think that the answer is no. He's not going to be the number 2 receiver that the Browns need. And the fact is, the Browns need more than just that. And there is no sign that the Browns are going to open up their checkbooks, even though they're probably worth, well, if Denver's worth $4.65 billion, surely Jimmy Haslam could sell to some schmuck for $4 billion. They're sitting on gold mines here, folks. And they're going to tell you, oh, no. Yeah, we got to be prudent with our expenditures. It's like, we only have 1 wide receiver. Well, don't worry, because we don't usually throw to the other 2. That's what Kevin Stefanski says. Got a tight end. Can rumble down the field. And geez, look at the statistics. How 20% of his touchdown passes Deshaun Watson threw tight ends. Deshaun Watson isn't going to be the quarterback. Who does Jacoby Brissett throw to in the end zone? Topaz? The fans out of the end zone? That's right. He throws the ball away so that he doesn't get sacked and doesn't throw a pick. That's who he throws to. The people in the dog pound. Please make this stop. We need another wide receiver, and we need a threat downfield, and we better do it, because if I'm going through 17 games this year doing this halftime and post-game shit, honest to God, I'm going to go ballistic. Every time that, quarterback goes back to throw and guys aren't open, I'm just going to be just screaming. And every week that Stefanski steps up and says, I think I've got to do a better job of calling plays. I just got to be better. Here's a name that I love. Sam Rutigliano. Yep. Ifs and buts were candy and nuts, it would be Christmas all year long. I had Sam on the show a number of times. Great gentleman. And he has principles. And every time that I will talk about him, I will say that he got blackballed from the NFL. He's way too dignified to have ever said that. I'm not putting words into his mouth. But the second that he addressed the drug problem in the NFL head on with the inner circle, the league had no space or time for him. The league does not want anything that even suggests that the horrible game that they preside over causes things like drug addiction from the sheer pain. Back then, it was Charles White from USC that we drafted, and oh my God, he was a mess. I remember him coming out onto the field and Brian Sipe waving him off. It's like, you don't know the plays anyway. Off you go. Off you go. You know, and he was like the first guy in the inner circle was Charles White, and everybody knew. But he wanted to address it. It's a problem, and he wanted those players not just to get better to play football. He want them to get better, to have a good life. Like I want, Josh Gordon to have a better life, to help with playing football. There is life beyond football. And that's something that Sam Rutigliano lived up to. I mean, I will never forget at the end of seasons, people would say, gosh, especially, Red Wright and all of the bad plays that befell the Browns and how close we came, yet we didn't get there. And the last media interviews, and they say, how are you going to manage to go on after this? And Sam would say, I've got a wonderful family in New England where I live. And I got grandchildren. I get to spend time with them. This is football, and that is life. And life takes precedence over football. Very refreshing point of view. Today, of course, you can't even suggest that there is some kind of a inner circle program for drug abusers in the NFL. That would be admitting there's a problem. That was the same reason why they won't do anything about CTE. They won't address the medical needs of football players who played before this recent crop of players who were earning far more money, because to do that acknowledges the problem. And the NFL is not good at that. What the NFL is good at is, hey, look that way. It's Condoleezza Rice. It's a black woman. Part ownership. That's what the NFL is. They can go fuck themselves. And I can love the Browns and not like the NFL. You're never going to hear a good word out of me about the ownership of the NFL teams. Not going to hear a single good word. But I like the players who play the game. I'm too small a podcast to get these people on the air, but boy, I'd love to talk to a bunch of them. And it might have been refreshing to talk to somebody who wanted to talk about something else other than football. But then again, I love the guys on my roster. Well, some of them kind of wear thin as the season progresses if they aren't very good. But besides that, or if they stop trying. But I love the guys on my team's roster. I'm a fan. That's what fans do. Now, other people who said they were fans, who put up, want to wear Carolina Panthers, paraphernalia now, or God forbid, put them up as a logo because they don't like Deshaun Watson. Those are the people who are just, I love my team. I just don't love what football does to my team when they're done playing the game, and it hurts. The one guy who cared They blackballed him. He ends up at Liberty College, where he felt, he was a good Christian. Of course, what ended up happening, the reins got handed over to Falwell's son, was far from being good Christians. But be that as it may, Sam Rutigliano, great guy, honest. And all the people who were anything in the organization, it's not like I didn't reach out and try to get people on the air. I can name probably in both hands the interviews that I've had with people. And the thing that really made me feel good is when people were just down to earth, like Sam or like Ray Boom Boom Mancini. He was another one. He was exactly who he portrayed himself to be on television, not like Sugar Ray Leonard, fucking marketing bozo, cowardly fighter, mean, womanizing, hurtful. Guy did a 7-Up commercial, Ray Leonard, with his kid. And that's the only time he ever spent with that child. You look it up. That's the kind of guy Ray Leonard was. Guy who didn't give a shit about his family because he was snorting cocaine. That's the kind of guy Ray Leonard was. Ray Mancini, he was the real deal, man. His father, Lenny, was proud as hell of him. And he was kind of a rags to riches story. And like so many people who were honest about the sport, the game that they're in, and Ray had the worst thing that could possibly happen. And, when he fought Dooku Kim and Kim died after the fight. And we talked to him about this, and, I had to literally tell him, you didn't do it. It's like, look at the number of fights this guy had, not on his professional record that the WBA put out, but in reality, he was a member of a South Korean boxing club. He had hundreds of fights. The damage was incurred over years of being battered. And Ray, by his own admission, was a guy who wasn't going to get out of your way, and he wasn't the biggest puncher. He just wore people down because he was in great condition. He was an action fighter, and he got out of the game. And what I can say about Ray, it's the only guy I ever talked to who could tell me what it was like to fight with Alexis Arguello in the ring. And Arguello knocked out Mancini, but Mancini gave a very good account of himself. And that was prior to him becoming a champion. And he spoke so glowingly of the late Arguello that, I was spellbound listening to his stories. Yeah. Good people. There are good people in sports. I want to talk more about those people. I don't want to talk about 32 owners in the NFL. I really don't. And I really don't want to talk about whether Baker Mayfield can revive his career, because his career is bigger than anyone else's in as far as being a 4-year guy or a 5-year guy. He's got a lot of money, and he's talked about a lot. And for a guy who was fighting his way onto a roster in college and taking a long shot at Oklahoma, he's done pretty damn well for himself. Good for him. There is one more thing that I need to talk about. I am watching the Cavs Summer League, and I know, Summer League doesn't tell us a whole hell of a lot. But I want to see, like you want to see, Agbaji, the guy who was the number 14 pick. And because the Cavaliers don't have but one guy who can shoot a 3-point shot right now, and he's 7 foot tall, Lauri Markkanen, and a little bit injury prone. And we've been trying to force Isaac Okoro into becoming a shooter, and a flat delivery is never going to go in the basket. It's just never going to happen for him. So we want to see if Agbaji from Kansas could be the guy. And I saw both of the games that he's played in. And I hate to come to fast conclusions, but what my eyes see, and I know it's just summer league, which if anything is like developmental league, you're supposed to look really, really good. He's got an upside of Danny Green, former Cavalier, and then went on to win games with the Spurs, and a downside of Trajan Langdon, of course, who went to Duke because he was so tortoise slow he couldn't get his shot off in the NBA, and that was back before speed became tremendous in the league. Langdon was slow by all slow standards. The problem with the Cavaliers is that Caris LeVert moves about as quickly as Gerald LeVert. And that's not a good thing. His idea of playing defense is guessing in passing lanes and getting backdoored constantly. He doesn't move his feet well because he's had a lot of lower extremity injuries in his career. And quite honestly, when he came to Cleveland from Indiana, he didn't seem to understand that he had changed uniforms because he continued playing for himself and not for the team. He was just running up points at a losing cause in Indiana. When he came to Cleveland, the losing began. And we don't need Caris LeVert. If we're going to get Colin Sexton back, if you want points and bunches off the bench, even though he's small, I know he's short, but Colin Sexton is a much better scorer than Caris LeVert, and he can get to the basket, and he can shoot threes, which Caris LeVert cannot, and he can create his own shot, which LeVert can, but it has reverse spin on it, and I don't know what that's all about, but it's never going to go in very often. So I don't care about him. And Okoro is a great athlete, but what good is it to be a great athlete and not be able to put the ball in the hole? He looks great running up and down the floor, but he can't finish and he can't shoot off the dribble. And even if he hides in the corner, he can't bury the corner three. So now there's Agbaji. And in his first game, he was hitting shots. And in his second game, he wasn't. But the one thing I can tell you is that everything that he's done, the ball is in his hands. The guy does not look like he knows how to play off the ball. He's a 4-year college player. And he does look like he has a nice stroke. It looks like he can shoot. But the question is, can the Cavaliers have the same kind of impact knowing that Darius Garland has got to play fewer minutes? And if we're going to re-sign Colin Sexton, he can come off the bench and give us some scoring. Ricky Rubio is not going to be ready, folks. I just want people to understand. You have an ACL injury, it takes 2 years of cellular repair in the area. And they call it cellular modeling. Until everything gets back. And the reason I know this is a knee replacement that I had 2 years. And I was back up and walking. I was playing tennis at the time. 6 months after my knee replacement. but the cellular level tissues continue to remodel and repair themselves 2 years after the surgery. It's asking too much of a guy who's 34 years old like Rubio to be able to come back very well. And the question is, who is going to set up a guy like Agbaji if he's wide open in the corner like Okoro had been? And how is he going to guard people without the burst and speed and foot speed that is a trademark of the NBA? There was a play in yesterday's game where, honestly, I mean, he jumped a pass and a passing lane, and as soon as he put the ball on the floor, a couple of dribbles, it's like everybody passed him. Not fast. He's not a guy who's going to make fast breaks behind, the coverage. He's not gonna lull people to sleep and do, back cuts and go strong to the basket. He isn't that guy. He looks like he can shoot off the dribble or he can shoot in space. And I know that's what the Cavaliers need. But it's going to require a couple of things: a stronger Evan Mobley, and it's going to take Mobley and Jared Allen to understand that passing out of the post rather than putting the ball on the floor in the paint, you got to look for your shooters. If Markkanen's out there, if Agbaji's out there, if Sexton's out there, you got to find those people. We know that Darius Garland is going to have two people following him around wherever he goes. So I just want to point out Danny Green on one extreme, who could shoot the basketball, but it was a piece, all right? And Trajan Langdon, who couldn't even stay in the league. That's what the high and low of this is. I don't see any higher upside for Agbaji. So, and as far as Evan Mobley's brother, forget about it. He looks slow and far less skilled than his brother. He could be like looking at a future vision of Bronny James. Hey, there's Toby versus World. Let's see what he says. Hi, Moo, I'm from Cleveland. I live in South Carolina in Greenville. I remember you. I'm going to be Panthers and Browns fans. I remember you said you lived in Columbia a while ago. No, I wasn't in Columbia. I was in Landrum. And it's interesting because I was only about 40 minutes away from Greenville, spent a lot of time in Greenville. Are they still showing all the Browns games? There was a bar down there that used to show all the Browns games. Then there was a Browns backers club in Greenville. And I never really got, because I had DirecTV Sunday Ticket, I never really got into driving the hour and a half back and forth into Greenville. But yeah, I love that area. And Greenville's really come on strong. The downtown area, really nice. I was up in the foothills. You would know if you just went up US 25 and started going up through Travelers Rest by Furman College and continuing up north like you were heading toward Asheville. I was off in an area called the Cliffs Communities, which was located where I was on Glassy Mountain, very close to Landrum, South Carolina. But I remember you, and thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it. Let's see what Hector is saying. He started out the show brilliantly. He looks like he'll make a solid role player. Yeah, I saw what you did there, Hector. You're going to suck me in with the solid role player, but then it's like I'm reading ahead. No. Yeah, in Turkey, right? I don't want to see Jetty Osmond on the floor again either. I think of Turkey. I think of Jetty Osmond. there's guys who we need better role players. And I think that's what eventually did the Cavaliers in. I think that too many minutes played, way too many minutes played by certain players, and we didn't have backups for them. Guys were playing hurt, and we were just down to, nobody thought we were going to be that good to begin the season, and we just didn't have enough bodies to get it done. We got to find more bodies, but it isn't going to be the Karis LeVert. You got to have, if you're doing what the Cavaliers are doing and you're setting up kind of a selfless team theory where, you move the ball and everybody gets a chance, you can't have the ball stick. And that's going to be a problem with Colin Sexton. They got to get him playing the right kind of ball if they re-sign him. But you're never going to get Karis LeVert to play that way. He is not an unselfish player, and that's what it requires. And if you take a look at the guys who kind of fit in this year, they're not me first kinds of guys, and Rubio would be a great example of that. There's a whole series of them. I mean, Evan Mobley didn't try to do everything himself. Jared Allen, when we can keep him assertive and aggressive enough, did all the stuff we wanted him to do, but he was never selfish with the ball, shot a very high percentage from the field. And even Stevens was, a guy who was willing to get down and dirty and play the kind of basketball that a guy off the bench has to play. It's that Matthew Dellavedova attitude. You're looking for more guys who make the whole better than an individual who makes himself look better. And it's tough. It's tough to find. Hector Farr, he's asked me about RJ Nembhard. Too much offense right now. He's hoisting way too many shots, and he's not a prolific scorer. And the problem we're going to have is we don't need, if we do re-sign Colin Sexton, if we want a smaller guy to score points, that's what it's going to be because he knows how. We need somebody who can run the show. And you have Darius Garland, who's wonderful, and Rubio was just the fantastic guy off the bench, and he's not going to be ready. So I just don't see that Nembhard is a guy who, if you look at, he's taken like 20 shots, almost 20 shots in each of the two games that he's played, but the assist numbers are not there. And you're playing ragtag basketball, there should be more assist numbers. So no, I don't think that's, and who looks good this time of the season in the summer league? It's just like, it's an illusion. I remember one of the worst players that I ever saw in summer league was Matthew Dellavedova. He was horrible. It's like, this guy can't shoot, and he's not fast. Why? And he comes from the land down under, it's like, why? But when he got up into, to play for the Cavs, he just hurled his body around the floor. He was the ultimate selfless player. And that made up, and he did kind of figure out how to shoot from behind the arc occasionally and create turnovers and do little things that spelled, and as a point guard, he knew who was where on the floor. You need guys like that, and it's really hard to find because the NBA has morphed into score first kinds of guys. Ja Morant is a great point guard, but if he was just assisting, nobody would pay attention. It's the fact that he can score in so many different ways. The league has leaned toward this method, and the Cavaliers have gone the opposite direction, and they need an unselfish point guard. Hard to find. And Cam Young is another guy. It's, he's a regular guy in the Canton Charge. He can shoot the ball, score points. A lot of people who are scorers, but not particularly great field goal shooters, percentage wise. And Cam Young is not very is lacking size, and is not going to be able to finish. And if he's trying to cut through the lane, he doesn't have that kind of ability. Right now, I don't see the guy. But again, I didn't see Dellavedova coming. So there may be somebody there. I just don't see him. And it's just going to take a little more time to see who can grab that bull by the horns, because I really don't think that you're going to see any of Rubio until maybe the second half of the season. And even then, very spotty minutes. It's not going to be enough because if you remember, he was finishing games on the floor with Darius in a two-guard kind of scenario. They were letting Darius become more of a scorer, and Rubio just knew where everybody was. He just has been doing it for so long that it's hard to find people who understand how to play that position. Well, I'm done. And I'm certainly glad that I had an opportunity to do the show. And everybody, enjoy your week. And you're not going to hear me say anything about the Guardians, because right now it's gone in the wrong direction. But I'll continue watching. When I have something to say, I will say it. But I will say, shh, don't look now. But Franmeal Reyes, he's not going to be around much longer. Okay, but you did not hear that from me. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Moohead Radio. I'll see you again, hopefully on Friday, if all things go well. I'm getting a new desk delivered, but I'm not ready to leave the studio yet. I've got a bunch of work that I have to do, and I've got a bunch of work people coming here to fix pool problems. Oh, my God, my pool pump died. I got my air conditioning on the other side of the house is going haywire. I got a lot of shit to do, but I'll be there on Friday at 6 o'clock. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And until then, hasta la vista, past your heads. Good night.